there were oligarchs. They call them oligarchs now, that were on the stage with the president. Did anybody notice that? It was quite interesting. I was pretty stunned by it. I was very surprised. I'd never seen that before. He had lots of CEOs up there that were taking positions ahead of leading government officials. I mean, you had people up there that I think Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, the CEO of TikTok. He's only, I don't know if he's enough of a billionaire to be close to the president. He was actually on the edge of the front row or something, and all you gotta do is run TikTok, and this probably makes it, that's $500 million a day, and you can get a seat somewhere in the back. And this was really interesting. This was something that is worth assessing. And there were people who had different reactions to it. There are some people who were deeply alarmed by it and said, this is evidence of capitalist corruption in our government, which it could be. And then there are some who just thought it was cool, and some just kind of wondered what this means. I've been listening to lots of assessments in places like the Wall Street Journal and others where they've been kind of doing these breakdowns to sort of determine, like, okay, what does this mean? What is this saying? And one of the things that's been stated that I agree with is that we definitely have entered kind of this era of what they does anybody remember? Has anybody ever heard of the era of the robber barons around the turn of the century? The turn of the century, I think late.
Like, okay,
Oh,
what does
sorry,
this mean?
the late.
What is this?
Let me turn this off. Sorry, the late 19th century. President William McKinley, who Donald Trump for whatever reason seems to really love McKinley. I don't know a lot about him. McKinley opened up the door for these robber barons to get a lot of power. Rockefeller, Carnegie, Vanderbilt, people like that. And they were able to build these monopolies that allowed them to accumulate massive, massive amounts of wealth. And so Trump really likes McKinley for whatever reason, I guess because he's emulating him. And that's kind of what you're dealing with. That's the era you're dealing with. Now, my interpretation of the oligarchs that were up on the stage is that this is a natural outcome. It's almost like this. It's like, back in the here we go. Has anybody noticed? I had a friend. I'll just tell you about this. I had a friend who said, it really just seems like now that they've been promoting gayness in the government and in schools, so many kids are gay. I mean, you might notice that it just seems like everybody and their mother is gay now. If you're under the age of 30, it's like very popular. It seems almost like there's like just this thing, like it's a trend, right? And some people look at it that way, and it's that's an opinion. And I said, well, I don't know if it's a trend or not. I said, but I had noticed that, right? Like a lot of the young people I mentor, it's like suddenly, guess what? I'm gay, mostly amongst the girls, like a lot of bisexual, all that stuff. And I said, well, maybe the theory could be that maybe we always had lots of people that were gay or bisexual, but they just didn't tell anybody. It was sort of like, but you kind of knew, right? The gay people have been around for a very long time. And I kind of feel like it's the same way with the government in terms of the oligarchs running the government. The people with the money, if you understand money the way I kind of see money, you'll know that your government's been run by money for a very long time. This is not a democracy. This is capitalism. At best, you have a capitalist democracy, but the word capitalist is bigger and broader and more direct than the word democracy. Democracy is like the tiny word, the little brother. Capitalist is the big brother. That's really what it is. And so basically, if you want to know the real reason that Trump had oligarchs on the stage, it's because he's kind of unfortunately doing in broad daylight what's been going on behind the scenes for a very long time. If you watch the inauguration and you were surprised to see these billionaires kind of out there in broad daylight exercising their power, I think it's actually quite interesting telling. I'm not gonna say it's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing, in that it's that's always been the case. When they let money into politics, I felt like that was a very bad idea. I say this as a person who respects the power of money, who understands the power of money very much, who believes deeply that the power of money is something that can liberate Black people. I believe that the power of money is very important to harness. I can tell you with complete certainty that having this much money in your government means that eventually the money's going to kind of drive everything. And that's a good reason to leave the money out. But they chose not to leave the money out. So now the money's in there like swimmer 100%. And as much as some people might want to say that this is purely a Republican thing, if you go back to the pandemic, what you'll notice during the pandemic is that the pharmaceutical companies made insane amounts of money in these public-private partnerships where they were helping the government to protect us against the virus by telling us that you must take this shot or you're going to lose all your friends and all your family and everyone's going to hate you and you're going to die, right? And that is a common tactic that is used in a lot of areas. It's used from by defense contractors all the time. It's because the government, they to some extent, the government, you can argue, has a little bit of a mafia style enforcer ability, right? It's almost like if you owe me money and I'd say, hey, you owe me money, can you pay me? You might say, well, screw you, I'm not going to give you anything. But if I got an enforcer next to me who can come to your house and threaten to break your legs or put you in jail or beat you up or take your kids or something, then that makes it easier for me to collect. So the government has the military. They become the enforcer, and the corporations sit back behind the enforcer and they pay the enforcer to enforce what they need to enforce. They just have to properly label it, right? So, for example, the defense contractors want to make money by selling weapons that shouldn't be really needed by anybody, shouldn't be really used anywhere. But they say, hey, you know what? There's a war in Ukraine, and what we need you to do is we need you to use the bully pulpit, and we need you to go out here and get on TV and use your the power of your voice to tell Americans that for whatever reason we're supposed to hate Russia and love Ukraine. And I'm gonna just tell you the truth. Give me a yes in the chat if you really don't give a damn about Ukraine. I'm gonna be honest. Let's just be honest. Let's keep it real. How many of y'all just really like maybe couldn't even find Ukraine on the map? Don't give a damn about Ukraine at all. Could care less. No disrespect to Ukraine, but we got problems here. We got other places I care more about, like I don't know, Chicago or something, right? Chicago. Yeah, I could go if I want to just go get shot. I can go to Chicago and get shot, right? If I want to go look at a war zone, I can go to parts of my own damn city. So a lot of black folks, same thing was true with Vietnam. Muhammad Ali said it right when he said, "Ain't no Viet Cong never called me nigga." So ain't no Ukrainian never did nothing for me. Ain't no Russian never hurt me. I could give two shits less about Russia, Ukraine, none of that. But for some reason, we're told like, oh, you're supposed to pick this side and support us as we write $100 billion checks for these wars that don't make sense to anybody. Now again, I'm not here to say that you have to agree with me. I'm just here to lay out a perspective. And so what I believe happens, and the reason that Trump had those oligarchs up on the stage is because it's a common thing across both political parties that you had defense contractors, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. They're like, okay, we've got these Scud missiles or whatever that we need to sell, and we don't know what to do with them. So there's a war over here, or we're going to help start one. And what we want you to do is we want you to use your military and your forces and your money to basically say that we have to be involved in this war. And then we want you to give money to the Ukrainians. Give money. They don't really give money, in case you don't know that. They don't give the money. Robert Kennedy did a good job of explaining that they're not really giving the money. What they're doing is it's a money laundering exercise. They basically give the money to Ukraine and then they tell Ukraine what to do with the money. So think about this. If I give you money and then tell you what to do with the money, I'm not really giving you money. Do you follow what I'm saying? Like if I say, hey, look, I'm gonna donate $50,000 to you on one condition, and you say, great, oh my God, thank you, Dr. Boyce, that's amazing. I might say, I know you got a school, so I'm gonna donate $50,000 to your school. But here's what I need you to do. I need you to take that 50,000. I need you to go to my brother's business, and I need you to spend that 50,000 buying school supplies from him. He's going to charge whatever price he wants to charge, and you can't dispute that. You're going to have to pay the full price. And why wouldn't you? It's free money, right? And that's pretty much what happens with these these big checks that get written to these other countries. We think that it's money going to other people, but it's really not. It's really just kind of similar to what the government's always done. If you go back and you look at, for example, I heard Trump mention he wanted to reveal what happened in the assassinations of Kennedy and Dr. King and all that. And I can tell you with complete certainty that the killings of both of those guys, in my opinion, were joint operations between the U.S. government and the mafia. They work with the mafia. They have these partnerships. Again, another type of public-private partnership that they may not talk about, but this is what you get. This is the government that you get. So if I'm a corporation and I want to make money from the government, and that's what they do. That's what billionaires can do. Trump is doing it for sure. The Bidens have made lots of money. The Obamas walked away from the White House as billionaires or close to it. So this is a common thing. A lot of Supreme Court justices and people that are high levels of government. Nancy Pelosi, a lot of these people make insane amounts of money. If you go follow their net worth, you'll say, "How is your income here, but your net worth is up here? How's a person that makes $250,000 a year have a $100 million net worth? How does that happen?" Right? And we just think it's luck. No, it's not luck. It's the power of having that position. Right? So it almost reminds me. My dad was a cop for 25 years, and it reminds me of like how you would have cops that would be making $40,000 a year, but be living in a $500,000 house. And for some reason, I guess maybe some people don't connect the dots, but you know what it is. You know what's going on. You stop a drug dealer and he doesn't want to go to jail, and the drug dealer sitting on $400,000 in his apartment, and you say, okay, break me off 50,000, and I'll make sure you don't go to jail. Right. So that power can be traded for money, and sometimes it happens in broad daylight. So what you're seeing right now with Trump and the oligarchs, the reason you saw Mark Zuckerberg up on this stage and Sundar Pichai up on the stage, and the CEOs are all kissing their butt. The Wall Street Journal has done deep dive analyses on this. They said this is fascinating that so many CEOs have switched their tune when it comes to Trump. So many have. They're all kissing his butt. They gave more money to his inaugural fund than he actually needed. They really, really did everything that they could to get close to this guy. And you're like, well, wait a minute. Just a year ago, you were saying terrible things about him. Well, it's mainly because they're basically sort of looking at the mob boss and who has a big ego, who's very, if you think he's a narcissist, I would tend to agree with you, whether you like him or not. You got to come on, this guy, he's got some narcissist tendencies. Um, and they're kissing the ring. And in exchange, what does happen then is he immediately does what he does best, which is to be a capitalist. First thing he does is releases the Trump coin, which, I think I actually bought some just because I think that it could go up, but I don't think it's a great investment long term. I don't think it's something that has any fundamental inherent value, but I do see power. I recognize power when I see it. So basically, he issues the Trump coin that immediately creates several $1 billion in wealth for his family, right? He puts 20% in circulation. 80% he keeps for himself. So if the total market value of all the coins is $8 billion, that means his family's now $6 billion richer. What else happens? He's connected to these, crypto companies and stuff like that as he decides to make the US into this important crypto hub and stuff like that. What else is happening? He did a public-private partnership recently with Mayoshi Son from the Vision Fund, as well as Sam Altman from OpenAI, and they said they're going to put $500 billion into developing AI infrastructure by building data centers and stuff like that. So all these things are definitely happening, and they're very, very real. And what I think is you should pay attention to once you get over your emotion, either your happiness or your sadness that he's in office, it's just this is how government works in America. This is also a reason why African American people, in my opinion, are never going to get proper relief from the government, reparations and all that. The only way you could get reparations or proper support is if you truly demanded it. And I don't think the black community is strong enough or strong-willed enough to truly demand what we deserve, right? We'll either settle for less with the Democrats, or maybe we just don't know exactly how to negotiate as a collective or whatever it is, or maybe whenever we try to, it becomes disrupted, or maybe at some point there has to be someone that comes along that's powerful enough to really get millions of people in line on the same page to negotiate for the same thing. Because right now it's just kind of frazzled everywhere. You have a civil war. You have black people that hate their own cousins because you're a Democrat, I'm a Republican, or you're a Republican, and that's a sellout. And I personally don't understand that, because what's interesting to me is that it's fascinating to me that we will fight harder for the Democratic Party than we'll fight for ourselves. Like if someone shows up and says, "Yeah, he's a Republican, he's a sellout, I hate these Republicans," like everyone gets riled up and going. But if someone says, "Hey, why don't we fight for the black community? Why don't we build to the point where we're strong enough that we don't need to depend on a political party to save us?" You're not going to get the same level of effort, because I don't think that there's confidence. That's what it is. I don't think that we have the self-belief that we can truly get things done by ourselves. I think that that's really your issue. I don't understand why white people always have to be invited to the cookout for us to feel like the cookout is legitimate. I don't understand that. I just don't get it. I don't understand. I can tell you, let me just tell you my personal experience. In the Black Business School, we've raised tens of millions of dollars and been able to single-handedly resurrect the powernomics concept and Dr. Claude Anderson's image and everything else to the world. We got almost 1 billion views on YouTube. We have 200,000 students all around the world that we've served at a very high level, better than anyone on the earth when it comes to Black wealth. And we did not need one corporate sponsor. We did not need government funding. We did not need stupid celebrities to come along and endorse us. We didn't need to, I didn't need, you didn't see me having to stand up next to some rapper saying, "Hey, come to the Black Business School." Sure, I met rappers because they heard about what we were doing, but not once did I go out and look for anybody. And I met some good people along the way. But all those people called me. I never ever, not once reached out to them. When Tyler Perry reached out to me, it was because he heard of me. I didn't call him. When even the great, amazing Louis Farrakhan, when they reached out, we didn't reach out to the nation. I love the nation, but they reached out to us because they heard that we were doing good work. When Ice Cube reached out, I didn't say, "Hey, how do I get in touch with Ice Cube? I need Ice Cube to endorse the Black Business School." No, somebody called me and said, "Hey, Ice Cube wants to talk to you." I said, "Oh, Ice Cube, yeah, he used to be one of my favorite rappers when I was a teenager. That's cool. Yeah, I'd love to talk to him. He's a great guy." Right. So my point is to say that I think that one of the problems that we have as a community is that we spend too much damn time looking externally when everything you need is internal. You're looking for everybody else to give you what's already inside yourself. We are literally walking down the yellow brick road looking for the damn Wizard of Oz. And a lot of us are the Scarecrow, some of us are the Tin Man, some of us are the Cowardly Lion. And just like in the Wizard of Oz, at the end, when they truly found themselves and they realized that the lion didn't have to go look for courage from the Wizard of Oz, he realized he had more courage than the Wizard of Oz. The Scarecrow didn't need to go and talk to the wizard to get a heart. He had one. The Tin Man. He didn't have to go out and get the things that he. I don't remember who had what. I don't remember who had the heart and who had the brains and who had the. Well, I think the Scarecrow didn't have the brains, but you get the point. You got the brains, the heart, and the courage inside of you to become whatever you want and build whatever you want. But if you are wasting all your time, if you're wasting all your damn time trying to attach yourself to someone else, hoping that that's going to pull you up the elevator, then I think that that's going to make you feel like a sucker at the end of the day. When I said I want to go out here and change the world, and I can say that now, I'm 53. I've been doing this thing for 20 years, damn near, publicly anyway. Privately, I've been doing it for 30 years. When I decided I wanted to change the world, I truly sat there and said, I can't change the world until I change myself. I can't get nobody else to believe in me if I don't believe in me. And I did not. I promised her. I said, I'm not going to sit on the phone begging and chasing people down and hoping people give me and support that. No, no, no. I don't. No, we going to do this. We're going to do it brick by brick, piece by piece. So that way, when it's done, we're not going to have to ask for anybody's permission for us to move forward. We don't have to ask anybody's permission for us to make a move. We are true Black power. We truly can do what we want, and we truly don't have to ask anyone's permission. In fact, it's so unbelievable to some people that people swear there were whole conspiracy theories where Dr. Boyce is secretly getting supported by the Jews, or there's an Asian man that's running his. No, these people all work for me if they ever came in my space. I was the boss. My team was the boss. I got a solid ass, down ass, hardcore, gangsta ass group of Black men and Black women who believe in Black people. That's what allowed us to reach the world. That's what allowed us to get it done. And the same thing is true for you. When it comes to you building that wealth, you have so much in your power, in your control, that sometimes we fail to acknowledge. You got those kids, you got that spouse, you got your friends, you got yourself, you got your intellect, you're picking up skill every day, you got free time, you've got work ethic. If you're putting all these things in motion, and you're making it work and you're focused and determined, I guarantee you that when you really focus on you and yours and what y'all got going on, you really won't have time to worry about what somebody else is doing up the street. So sometimes, sometimes my friends that are really super committed to the Democrat Republican thing, they get frustrated with me, and I get frustrated sometimes. I'm like, I don't care about integration. I don't really care if they're inviting us in. I don't care about whether or not they give us a seat at the table. Haven't you learned by now that there are no seats that you can keep permanently at someone else's table? Have you not learned by now that no one else is going to invite you into their home and make you into a home owner? The best you can ever be is a tenant. The best you can ever be is an employee. The best you can ever be is a temporary member of the club until they kick your black ass out. And right now, what's happening? Right, what's happening right now in DC? Trump literally came in and with the swipe of a pen, if I'm not mistaken, wiped out every single DEI position in the entire United States government. Holy crap. Holy crap. That's horrible. That's horrible. I'm not here, I'm not gloating about that. I'm not here to say I told you so. What I'm here to say is, do you think that there could have been a better strategy? Did you assess the extraordinary risk that you're taking when most of your self-esteem, most of your success, most of your financial security is dependent upon people who don't even like you that much? People who don't they don't love you, they don't really want you around, they tolerate you. And the minute they get sick of you, they put you out on the street. So wake up calls, sometimes God sends us a wake up call. And the best thing that ever happened to me in my life was that I got some of my wake up calls early. I grew up believing the diversity stuff. I grew up believing in integration. I grew up believing that we had all these opportunities, but I had enough experiences where that white man kicked me upside my head, and I said, "You ain't gonna keep kicking me, damn it. That ain't. I'm not gonna live like that. I'm not gonna be that man for the rest of my life. You did that to me when I'm 19, but that ain't never happened again." And and maybe that's my trauma coming in. Maybe that's my trauma trigger. I have no idea. I know I always tell y'all that I've never dated a white girl. I only did with I, when I even before I got married, I always said I'm only gonna marry a black woman. I'm here for a black woman. I'm here to serve a black woman and a black family, period. Um, because I do believe that who you marry says something about you. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just, but it says something. It says something. And I never get to talk. I don't talk much about why I felt that way. Well, two things that happened. One is my mother, my beloved mother, who just left us. She just went to heaven Christmas Eve. I remember her saying when she was about probably 32 years old, and I was like 16 because my mother was very young, and I heard her say that a lot of her friends had a hard time finding a good husband. And I remember thinking because I love my mother and I want to please my mother, I said, well, I'm going to be a good husband. I want to marry a black woman and be a good husband. And I did. I felt that way because I wanted my mother and people like her to be happy. But then the other piece of that was when I was 15, there was a girl, I forgot her name, but she was on the track team and she was a white girl. And I was 15 and we liked each other and she liked me, I liked her. She gave me a little kiss behind the bleachers and all that. And I know she liked me. And then one day, and then we would pass notes in class every day. I'd go to class, and I'd be going to my class. She'd go to hers, and she'd pass me a note. And then the next class, I'd pass her a note. And then one day, she just stopped passing the notes, and I didn't know what was going on. It was very sad. My heart was broken, and I was like, why isn't she talking to me anymore? And I called her house, and every time I called her house after that, she wasn't able to answer the phone. She never was available, right? And then one day I think I put two and two together and I asked her, I said, is it because your dad doesn't want you to date a black guy? And she said, yeah. And I remember just being so hurt by that. I told my dad was pissed off. He was a little George Jefferson type. He said, see, that's why you reject them before they reject you. He was mad. He was heated. He was mad. And I think for me, I just felt like, okay, I don't understand why somebody would hate me and they don't even know me. But at that point, I just said, you know what? I'm done. No more. No, never doing this again. And I don't even know if that's a healthy response to that. I'm sure there are lots of white girls who would have dated me. I'm sure there've been white girls that have hit on me in time. I just never noticed it. I never noticed. It's almost like when I go to Atlanta and some dude is hitting on me. I'm always surprised. But I forget that there are guys that hit on dudes. But if you are a dude that hits on dudes, just hit on whoever you want. Just don't hit on me, or I might get mad at you. But at the same time. It was. Yeah, it was just kind of one of those things where I was like, I'm not interested in that anyway, and I never went back in that direction because I think that it's patently unfair. I think that we have to really just process that how unfair that is that somebody assumes that they are better than you to the point where they can just dislike you and you ain't never did nothing to them. I mean, if you think about how inherently hurtful and evil it is for people to treat you that way. Like, think about how terrible that is. You're a good person, you're trying to help people, you're trying to be friends with everybody, and somebody just hates you just because you're black, just because of who you are. That's a terrible feeling. That ain't right. And I'm gonna just tell you, I also feel like we should stop doing that too. I feel like sometimes we do that to gay people. I don't hate a gay person or a trans person because they're gay or they're trans. I just have my beliefs, but that doesn't mean I got to be mean to you. I can love you and disagree with you, and so I think love is really important. And I think that that lack of love, I think the most horrible feeling in the world for a black person, in my opinion, is this idea that we spend our lives looking for love in all the wrong places. Like we are literally looking for love from a group of people that are just not trained to love us. It doesn't mean that they're all bad. It doesn't mean they all wake up and say, "How am I going to beat up a black person today?" They don't. I don't think they. I'm not saying that. I don't think that's the case. I know a lot of good white folks who are not bad people, but racial bias and all that stuff is very, very real. And I would almost say that I think you should be insulted by the fact that somebody trained you to spend all your time chasing jobs and looking to go work, literally go work for the very same people that don't like you very much, or these, or if you hate these terrible capitalists, or if you're complaining about Trump and his billionaire friends that are exploiting people and all this other stuff, what they're doing, or Trump got sued for racial discrimination back, then if you think these people are so bad, why the hell are you sending your kids to go work for them? Because that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing when you reject ideas like powernomics, when you reject powernomics, and all powernomics is saying, all Dr. Claude Anderson is saying is get up off your ass and go build something of your own. All he's saying is invest for your family. All he's saying is have a plan. That's all he's saying. He ain't saying nothing crazy, terrible, or radical. But yeah, people get mad about that. They get offended by that. Do you know how many HBCUs there are that have never ever even invited this man to come and give a speech? Howard University is right down the street from this man. Never once did they, from what I understand from my conversations with him, have they ever picked up the phone and said, hey, Dr. Anderson, we consider you to be one of the great economic thinkers of this time. We've honored many white people who hurt black people. We've honored white people who've incarcerated black people. We've honored white people who've exploited and harmed and mistreated black people. So since we've honored them, we're going to honor you because you're one of us and you love us. They didn't love us, and we honored them, but we're going to honor you because you love us, because our self-esteem is that high, and because we get it that much. They'd never done that. They say, no, no, he's dangerous. He's doing this pro-black thing, and we can't have too much of that. Too much of that. It's very bad. We're very proud of our graduates. We have 20 graduates this year who are going to be DEI experts at the federal government under President Trump. Maybe or maybe if Biden gets back in office, he'll restore DEI and or whatever. And we have a bunch of other students, our best students. We send them to Goldman Sachs, and we sent some of them to Merrill Lynch, and some of them are working at Chase Bank. And we're very proud that they're working for these white people, and we love the fact that they're working for the very same people who made trillions of dollars enslaving black people years ago. And it's good for them. It's going to be very good for that one Negro who gets that one job, but the rest of the community can just suck a rock. And that's pretty much what you're doing when you're training millions of your absolute best and brightest to go work for the very same people who are the cause of your frustration. That is literally a significant mental illness. Like that's worthy of therapy. That's worthy of therapy and medication. Like you crazy. You out your damn mind. Brother Nuri Muhammad, one of my good friends, a man I love to the ends of the earth. He said something so crazy. I love the fact that he said it on the Breakfast Club. He said we're the only group who will sit around and blame 95% of our problems on the white man, but then spend 95% of our money with the same white man that we're blaming for our problems. So you give him all your money, and more importantly, you give him your kids because they go work for him, and then you give him your time because you are trying to get into his door and get an opportunity to sit at his table, and then you give him all your attention. And I personally think that it should be the reverse. I think that it's a conscious effort to say, What does it mean for me to give my attention to the people who actually deserve it? What does it mean for me to love and honor the right people without worrying about how the world feels about that person? Like, do I have the courage to sit up there and say, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was one of the greatest scholars in the history of Howard University, even though they fired her? What does that require? And how do I respond when the world says, "Oh, that's radical, that's crazy, what's wrong with you?" Because what's interesting is that there are people who look at pro-blackness as like some type of mental illness. Like, he's all super pro-black and blickety black, and they almost look at it like you're crazy. But what's really crazy is when you up here chasing white folks for a job. What's really crazy is when you really think that these people who have never ever shown any love for you are gonna come and save you. What's crazy is when you're sitting around waiting for somebody else, your adversary, to give you financial security that they're never going to give you. I can tell you, I know a lot about capitalism. When those oligarchs were sitting up on the stage, I can tell you exactly how all of them made their money. I can tell you exactly what the formula was, what the systems looked like, exactly how it was all done. I can tell you their connection with Donald Trump. I can tell you a lot of things. And one thing about capitalism that we still have not understood, that we got to get through our thick heads, is capitalism ain't got no love for nobody. Capitalism is a jungle. It is an economic jungle that's built on survival of the fittest. Martin Luther King started to realize that when he went right before he died. The poor man, he was a kid, he was young. When Martin Luther King died, I think he was about 14 years younger than I am right now. So he was young. He was still learning, just like I was when I was his age. I was figuring things out and also had a whole PhD in finance. So I understand why it took Dr. King a while to get to the point that he was when he understood that the real issue was an economic issue. And one thing Dr. King said that was 100% accurate was he said that he said, wait, America is not just a burning house. It is for many reasons, but it's also just a big liar. It's a hypocrite. He said, on one hand, you're talking about justice, but on the other hand, you're talking about capitalism, which capitalism does not breed justice. Capitalism does not go hand in hand with equality. Capitalism don't give a damn about equality. Capitalism's like, okay, if you're the smartest and you're the hardest working and you got the most connections and you do the best with your resources, you're gonna get ahead and other people are not. And that's fundamentally problematic and unfair because there's some people who just don't have the same level of work ethic or intelligence to do what some people did. Some of y'all came out of the mud. Some of y'all, like me, some of you were born in the projects like I was, who were able to find a way to get to the top. Everybody ain't got that. Everybody doesn't have that level of focus and skill, right? So, and I think it's unfair to expect everyone to have that. So there should be spaces for equality. There should be spaces for justice and fairness and everything else, right? But that's not the America that you live in. That's not the country you live in. That's what America pretends to be. That's what America pretends to be. It's almost like these companies that have these diversity statements, and they're like, remember they used to have those stupid little corporate statements like, here at here at Walmart Corporation, we believe in diversity and we are firmly against discrimination based on race, gender, religion. Like they would just, and they would really make you believe that they really care about that crap. They didn't care about that stuff. And what's happening right now? All those companies, when Trump told these companies to drop their DEI programs, they dropped it quick. They ain't defending you. They ain't and even DEI wasn't defending you. Y'all know what DEI became. Dr. Colin Anderson talks about that. DEI became I mean, it kind of started to benefit black people. When I got my job at Syracuse, that was a diversity hire. They didn't want to hire no black people in that business school. They had almost 100 faculty in the business school. I'll never forget this, and not one single African American anywhere in that school. So they made them do it. We were like Brown versus Board of Education. When the three of us came in, we were the only three black people in the entire department, in the entire business school. All the departments come in. There's like six departments. We were the only three black people. So this is what you are going to get. Now, somebody's asking, when am I going to start reading? I just want to say that I think this should be a special Powernomics training that goes beyond just what's in the book. I'll read a section of the book, but I actually want to talk about this because so many of you have asked me about the oligarchs and the Trump administration and DEI. So I think that this fits into our Powernomics conversation because this is what Powernomics is. Powernomics is the only tool available anywhere for Black people that I'm aware of, or one of the prominent tools that gives you the ability to survive in a capitalist society. And a lot of the reason that it has not been fully embraced at the level that it should is because you got hamstrung and you got distracted. You got distracted. To win the game, you're supposed to run 2 miles to the north, and they got you running south and in circles and running up the bleachers and to the left and to the right. And I see Barbara's mentioning the boule, they just all that. They literally did. They just get you all like distracted, and you're like, "Ooh, no, stop it." I'm gonna break it down for you right now in terms of who's winning under Trump, who's winning under Biden in the black community. Who's winning? Well, first of all, if you want to know who's winning, first thing you got to do is know what a winner looks like. You got to be able to identify what it means to be winning. That's the first thing. We think winners are losers and losers are winners. We look at Sexy Red the rapper and say she's winning. No, she's not. That poor girl, STDs, and she's in a garbage culture. She's ignorance, babies, daddies, and you ain't winning. That just a white man wrote you a check to make a fool out of yourself. That don't mean you winning. You don't know you really don't know people are winning until they're like about 50, 60, 70 years old anyway. Like a lot of 22-year-olds think that they're winning, then they're dead at 24. Right? This happens a lot in hip hop. Oh, he's winning, he's a role model, and then he's gone because there was all these risk factors all around him that no one acknowledged. There was nobody talked about the fact that this poor 23-year-old is in a world now where he's got to get up and watch his back every day because he's got a bunch of people that want to kill him. Okay? So winning, to talk about winning, first thing you got to do is be able to identify like what does that mean? You need a measure. In mathematics, they call this a measure. And measures are really important because different measures mean different things to different people. So you can have your own definition of winning, but I'm going to throw something out there that we might want to think about. I would say if you're trying to figure out what it means to win as a black person in under any administration, maybe you start with a word that we use all the time, a word called freedom. We've talked about freedom before. Most people don't have it. Most people aren't even free to decide what they're going to do with their afternoon because they have to go to work. Okay. And then when you have economic constraints, that limits your ability to be free, that limits your ability to do the things you love, that limits your ability to live the life that you feel like you're supposed to live, right? So freedom and options are kind of connected. If I'm a free person, I tend to have options. If I don't have options, then I am not free. So if you are a black person that is raised in a way where you are led to believe that you should not have options because you're black, or that somehow being black means by definition you're not going to have many options and not much freedom, I feel kind of bad for you because that definitely means that you're not winning, and it might mean that you've been tempted to be led to believe that black people are supposed to lose unless a white man pulls out the key and unlocks the gate and gives you an opportunity to be free. That's kind of the discussion, right? Even James Brown, when he was making songs like "I'm Black and I'm Proud," and I love James Brown, but I think he was saying something like, "I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open the door and I'll get it myself." And I like that statement. I love it. It felt good when I heard it. But eventually I realized, wait, I think that there's another level to this. There's another consciousness to this because the bigger question isn't just, will you open the door? I think the biggest question is, well, who built the damn door? And why do I got to walk through that door? And why do you have to open the door? Who owns the door? Where did the door come? Why is there a door? Why I got a door and you ain't got no door? Those are to me, those are the bigger questions. Is there another door? Maybe there's another door. I got a door at my house. I can walk through that door and get it myself. What am I getting? What am I trying to get? Why am I going through a door? Where did the door come from? These to me are the existential questions I believe every black child should be trained to ask. Because what happens is we make statements like, well, one day you'll get a seat at the table, son. Man, F you and your damn table. God gave me the right and the freedom to decide if I want to if I even value your table enough to even try to come sit at it. Maybe I ain't got time to sit at your table. Maybe your table, what is it at your table that is so special? What privilege, what white privilege have I given you by even believing that somehow your table is more important than my table? Do you follow what I'm saying? Do you get what I'm saying? This is really important. This is really important to understand. When you talk about values and success, what you got to understand is how, to some extent, there's a certain type of white supremacy embedded in the way we even define things like success. For example, if I consider success as an actor to mean I get an Oscar, And I don't sit back and say, well, where did the Oscars come from? Who created the Oscars? So they get to, so wait a minute, I gotta earn an Oscar. They get to print Oscars. They get to print them and give them to their friends. And I'm looking at their friends like, oh my God, I admire you so much. Could you have an Oscar? Same thing is true with money. With money, do you understand? You read books. You need to read books like I think it's called Lessons from an Economic Hitman or something, and it kind of tells you how economics can be used is used by the United States to oppress other countries, because they have an inherent advantage. If I get some small African country to be really deep in debt to me with dollars, they're automatically going to be at an inherent disadvantage to me. Why? Well, because for them to get a dollar, they got to go earn it. They have to do something to earn it. I don't have to earn it. I can go back in the back and print dollars. So how in the hell are you gonna, how are you ever going to be greater than your God? I am your economic God. I can go print the money. You got to work for it and you got to hope that I'll give you some. But I got it in the back. I can go get whatever. So what's happened is that to some extent sometimes what we call white privilege and white supremacy is really built on somebody convincing us to play a game that's rigged for us to fail. And I can tell you that if you are smart enough, you will learn to decide what games you are going to play and not going to play. I don't want to be in a game that's designed for me to fail. I want to be, how about this? How about we get in games that are designed for us to win? So ultimately what I would say to you is that when you're talking about success and winning under Trump, winning under Biden, winning in a capitalist society, I would start with that word freedom. And then I would go into like, well, what does it look like? What does a winning black person even look like? Well, they're probably free. They're probably doing well in three key areas, one of three, two of three, or three of three. Health, wealth, and relationships, right? Physically and mentally healthy, uh, good relationships with people that they love and trust, like a strong family, all that, and some money in their pocket, financial security and income. All three of these things, there's nothing that I mentioned in this list that you need a white man to produce for you. Now he's all up in the Kool-Aid though. He got systems designed to literally ruin you and enslave you in every one of those areas. He's got food that if you eat the food, you're going to die. You're going to get all the Negro diseases, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, kidney failure, all that, right? That's all this is being revealed, thank goodness, right? And if you don't think about it, then yeah, he can ruin your health, your physical health, mental health. That is a matter of consciousness and shaping your mind in a certain way, where so many of us are distracted by things like media and entertainment and whatever, right? So your mental health can be disrupted. Relationships, black relationships struggle sometimes because we're not trained in how to have those proper relationships, right? But I can tell you that when you talk about mental health, physical health, and relationships, and then you get to money, my specialty, but relationships and all that kind of ties into that. That's why I talk about that. You can't talk about one without the other. Literally, the people that I see that are winning the most are not the ones who've been able to figure out how to get into someone else's space and navigate that space, like climb the corporate ladder or get white folks to love them or win an Oscar or a Grammy or whatever. The people that I find that are winning the most are the ones who simply say, there's certain games I'm not even going to play. I'm gonna win the game by making sure that I control as much of the game as I possibly can. So that might mean being thoughtful about what I eat and put in my body, what I put inside my mind, being careful about the spaces that I spend time in. Maybe I don't want to get up every day and go to some job and be surrounded by a bunch of people who are going to be toxic toward me, who are going to mistreat me and treat me badly. Maybe from a fundamental level, I find that to be unacceptable because one of the things about white supremacy to me is that it works better when you accept it. I mean, it's more effective when you allow it, when you walk right into it. So if you walk right into systems and situations where you're going to be mistreated, and then you get mistreated, then you say, "Well, look at here, they go treating us bad again." There's not a point where people say, "Well, why did you even walk in there in the first place if you knew you were going to get treated that badly?" And then what will happen is we'll say, "Well, because I had no other choice." Well, that is where our job might come in. That's where maybe someone like me can help, and I can say, well, you really don't, your kids really don't actually have to go and work for white people their whole life. Like you're not really stuck. It's just, but the problem is though that eventually it requires you to look in the mirror and you have to sort of question some of your habits. You have to say, okay, if my 28-year-old child is going to a job that he hates and being mistreated every day, why isn't it in our family culture to just do little things like invest for him so that he can have plenty of money by the time he's in his 20s? We've talked about this. Blackwealthmasterplan.com. That's the URL, blackwealthmasterplan.com. It's free. That's the $5 a day plan. And I show you literally if you got a kid and you never want your child to work for anyone, all you got to do is just follow that simple formula and they'll be in a position where they'll be financially secure as long as they don't do something stupid and throw away all the money. But ultimately, money drives everything in America for the most part. Money is important in America. Is it right? No, it's not right. There are so many things that money has infiltrated that money should not be able to buy. The reason the healthcare CEO got killed is because you shouldn't be weighing someone's life, the value of human life, against a dollar bill, right? That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. But that's what we do. That's what the healthcare companies do because their job is to make a profit for their shareholders. Welcome to capitalism. If you want to ask me, where do I see aspects of true democracy? Well, one area that I see democracy is in things like the existence of the stock market. I am an expert on the stock market. I've told you all this, and I am a firm believer that one of your best opportunities to be able to succeed in this capitalist society is to take some portion of your money and allocate it towards stock market investments. I really believe that. Yes, I believe in building black-owned businesses and all that stuff. That's very important, of course, but also there's nothing wrong with you owning a piece of somebody else's business. They own businesses where you're doing all the work. It's okay for you to own businesses where they're doing all the work. If I own shares of a Walmart or a Costco, then I'm right in there. That to me is the best form of integration I've ever seen because Costco treats its shareholders all the same, and so many of those shareholders are regular working people who have allocated a percentage of their wealth to investing in a company that they want to be a part of. They say, when you make money, I want to make money because I know money is the key to freedom. And typically, those who are financially secure have better access to the other important areas of life. People that are financially secure tend to have better relationships, better marriages. They tend to have better mental health. They tend to have better physical health because they're not stressed out. They don't have to go and do things they don't want to do in order to make money. So getting that financial piece together, I think, is really important. And I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna work whether you're under Trump or you're under Biden. Most of the people I know that are doing well economically in America, black people, they do well under any administration. They're fine regardless. The bigger picture stuff is interesting. It's fun to watch. It's easy. It's fine to be excited about it or be offended by it. But I would encourage you to also focus on what's happening right there at home. I think that's what's going to get you through almost any storm, any situation. So one thing, and in fact, if there was a benefit to when Republicans get in office and we get all mad and disgruntled, is that we then suddenly realize it's right in our face that we don't have any friends, and then we start saying, well, what are we going to do now? Let's get together, let's rally around each other and help each other, and that actually creates more opportunities. I can tell you that if white folks had been nice to me my whole life and hadn't been mean to me, I don't know if I'd be the person I am now. Sometimes your struggle calls you to greatness. Sometimes you got to go through some hell to be able to create a heaven for yourself. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. And I had the necessity of inventing something that would allow me to sustain myself because the path that I thought I was going to take wasn't the path that God wanted me to take. It wasn't the path that was allowed and afforded to me. And maybe my extreme commitment to marrying a black woman, maybe that wouldn't have been quite what it was if that first white girl had been much nicer to me and I never knew any better, right? Again, I don't know. I don't know if I should be ashamed to share that story or not, but when I was 15 years old, I was still a kid. I was a little boy. And I just thought people were people. And then this was my introduction to racism. And it was a reminder. It's interesting. I grew up in Louisville. That's where Muhammad Ali grew up. And he and I both left Louisville for the very same reason, that the racism was just absolutely stifling. As a black man, it was very hard to get opportunities and to make things happen. So I went out into the world. And when I did, I found so many opportunities that I never would have known to exist had I not been sort of pushed out there by my circumstances and by my situation. It's almost like being in a relationship where you're in love. Most of y'all have gone through this, right? You know, where you're in love with somebody that's like a terrible person and you're almost embarrassed to even admit it. And then they dump you, and then you go and you meet all these amazing people, and you're like, oh my God, I didn't know all this was out here. I would never would have known because I gave you all my attention. And that really is an exercise also in self-esteem and knowing your worth. So I think that we are in an abusive relationship with white people. I really believe that. I believe, and it's no disrespect. I don't hate white people. I have to say that just because people get scared when I say white people, But really, I think we are in this abusive relationship with America. This abusive relationship where we give love and don't really expect much love in return. We're looking for acceptance in places that we're not accepted. We're going to be we're looking to be treated kindly in places where we'll never be treated kindly. And I think the only solution is that we have to accept the importance of doing the hard work and reshaping and restructuring how we raise our kids, how we raise them to think. So if I'm raising a black child in America, I'm gonna finish with this point. Then I am gonna read some of Dr. Claude Anderson's book today too. But this is a powernomics conversation. If I'm raising a black child, number one, I really talk extensively about the importance and the power of ownership. I make sure they understand they must own something. You must own something. You must own something. You must own something. You cannot go through America without owning something. If you own nothing, then someone will own you. When Donald Trump stood on that stage with his son Barron, he pointed out his son Barron specifically for a reason. He pointed out Barron because he wanted the world to know this kid is going to be your leader one day. He pointed out Barron because Barron is going to be a billionaire with 100,000 employees, with all kinds of money and all kinds of power, and maybe he's going to be president of the United States one day. He was positioning his son. He's got his son at NYU, one of the best business schools in the world. He's preparing for the year 2050. He's preparing for the year 2060. He's preparing for what's going to happen after he's gone. And what I would almost say to you is that when the time comes and Barron takes over and has power, he'll know what his role is in the world. He's not going to go through life thinking that he's supposed to be somebody's employee. He won't look at himself and say, "Whoa, this is so hard. I'm an oppressed black man." He's going to go out and just be whatever his father has trained him to be. Well, I think the same thing should be said about us in terms of asking ourselves, what are we preparing our children for in the future? How are we talking to them? How are we introducing them to the world? Because I can tell you this, I don't know if your son or daughter is going to be happy if you're bringing them to the world and saying, well, my child can't, is not as important as a Barron Trump. I just hope my child can get a job working for Barron Trump one day. Because that's what's going to happen if all you're doing is you're producing the child to go work for and be owned by another party. Right? If you say, hey, just be really good to rich white people and so that they'll give you a good job because you went to a good school and you make good grades and they're going to hire you. Some people don't train their kids to do that. Some people train their kids to start from the top. It's like a building. Capitalism's like a building, and some people train their children to start in the basement, and some people train their children to come down from the penthouse. So what I'm saying to you is I think you should train your kids to come down from the penthouse. So you say, son, okay, you can get a job if you want to, but it's better you have more power if you're an owner. And if you can't own a business, that's fine. You should own something though. You should own something. And the way you can start owning is we're going to get you some shares of stock so you can say that you own a piece of America so you won't feel victimized by America. You won't sit back and watch the presidential inauguration and say, look at all them damn rich people, all them fools getting rich, all these people, Mark Zuckerberg getting money and all that, they exploiting people. I get that. They probably do. But maybe you can also say, gosh, I own, my dad got me 100 shares of Facebook stock. So when the stock price went up, I made an extra $10,000 today. Or I own shares in Amazon. There's Jeff Bezos. When that white man works for me, he does a really good job because I've made $50,000 this year being an owner in Amazon stock. That's another reality that I don't think is above us. I don't think there's anything uppity about preparing your children for that reality. The greatest form of democracy you're ever really going to have in America, in my opinion, and this is very sad to say, but it's true in my opinion, the best form of democracy you're ever going to have in America is the democratization of investing through the stock market and capitalism. It sucks, right? Capitalism is not a friend to humanity. It's not a good thing. It's destroying the environment. That's why you got snow in Florida right now. It's because they're messing the ozone layer up so much that you got Arctic winds coming down from the North Pole. That's why Chicago is negative was negative 10 degrees this morning. Down in Florida, it's colder in Chicago than it is in the North Pole in Antarctica. Florida's got a bunch of inches of snow. They even got snow in Jamaica. So capitalism is doing that. Capitalism is ruining the environment. Capitalism is causing people to die early. Capitalism is the reason so many Americans have cancer. Capitalism is not it's not your friend, in my opinion, because it's unchecked. It should be regulated, but it's not regulated because it's infiltrated your government. It's like a poison that's kind of gotten into your government, and now you have a capitalist, Donald Trump, running the government with another capitalist named Elon Musk, and that's just what you're going to get. So the closest thing though you'll get in terms of capitalism is that the capitalist at the top of the pile needs public money in order for them to do what they do, right? When Tesla sells millions of shares of stock to the public, they raise money from the public, people like you and I, so they can then go and build rocket ships to Mars and driverless cars and everything else. I believe all of us should be participating in that. I really do. I think that you'll feel better if you're seeing things happening and you'll say, gosh, I don't like that guy, but he did make me a lot of money, which makes me hate him a little bit less, right? I'm not saying that you should think that he's a good guy because he made you money. I'm not going that far because I don't think money should override that. But at the same time, I think hating someone who put you in the struggle is different from hating someone who also made you rich. Just at least do that. You do that with your boss. A lot of y'all hate your boss, but you go to work with for him. You serve him. You're right there for a boss. You need some coffee. Yeah, what time you need me to be there, boss? That's what we do, right? A lot of us so the hatred that you might have for say a Donald Trump, in my opinion, is probably similar. It's probably connected to the fact that you probably worked for people like that your whole life. I don't know how many of you worked with a guy that just was kind of a prick like that, just kind of arrogant, dismissive, disconnected, right? A lot of us have. A lot of us have worked for Donald Trump. So maybe that's what you hate about it. And I can tell you that this two-way game between the racist and the and the so-called victim of racism is a game that both of you have to agree to play. And it starts with little things like how Trump talks about Barron and says, "Oh, this is going to be your children's boss." And then we talk to our kids and say, yeah, our kid is going to come work for Barron one day. Because if you're not preparing your child to own assets, then what you're doing is you're making your child the asset. There's a saying in business that says, if you get a product and you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. So if you get something, if you go into capitalism and you're not paying the price of freedom, then somebody owns you and somebody's going to be using you as the commodity. If you don't own something in America, and it kind of sucks, but it's true, if you don't own something in America, then someone's probably going to own you. And ownership means, basically, in simple terms, that you're an asset. That's what you are. Ever since slavery, you do know, y'all do know, like the price of a slave was about like buying a car. You could go get a bank loan against your slaves. You could tell the bank and hey, they might say, do you have collateral? They might say, yeah, I own 20 Negroes. Oh, wow, that's plenty of collateral. So they would sign a loan document based on the fact that they have, 20 slaves. So you've always been an asset. I think the question to ask is, have you been an asset to yourself? Right? Because given that capitalism is a very competitive sport, or economics is a competitive sport, you're competing for resources. You're competing to acquire and control things. Just like when they realized how much wealth is in Africa, you had European countries all vying for jockeying for position and carving up Africa, negotiating for pieces of Africa, right? Because there was like a rush, like a gold rush. We're gonna go to Ghana and get this, and we're gonna go to Mali and get that. We're gonna go to Nigeria and get this, right? So there was like this rush to acquire assets to use for their own benefit. Well, remember, you and those precious black babies that you're giving birth to are assets. And there's always a gold rush to acquire that asset. And if you're not conscious enough to realize how valuable that asset is, then someone's going to come along and acquire it. Like, so for example, we have this really handsome, intelligent young black boy in our house who is also 6'9". He's a whole 6'9". He's very tall. He walks in places and people look up and they're like, whoa. And all the girls are like, ooh, you know, and don't you dare for a second, you would not believe how often people look at him and they say, well, how long you been playing basketball? Or who do you play for? When I walk with him through downtown Chicago, everybody looks at him because they think he plays for the Bulls or DePaul or something like that. And so So, and this happens all the time. Or when when your little black boy is 6 years old and he's kind of big for his age, the football coach comes along and says, when you're a single mom, you're raising your son, and they're like, when you gonna bring him out for football, right? And they're seeking to acquire your asset. They're going to use your child's gift, your child's talent, your child's wealth as a way to produce something for themselves. Maybe it's rapping, maybe it's scoring touchdowns on the football field, maybe it's dunking basketballs, or maybe it's just like, hey, that boy can come work for me, right? And so what is interesting to me is that you have some scenarios where the children are just acquired from you. You give birth to them, and then you sell them to someone else, like a chicken having eggs, and we just take the eggs and we take them to the farmers market at the KFC. Um, versus you have some parents who say, no, you're not getting my son. No, my son's not. No, he's not playing football because I don't want him to get brain damage. Or like we did with our son, who's 6'9". We said no, he wants to be an engineer. Leave him alone. No, he'll play basketball if he wants to. His talent belongs to him. Let him do what he wants to do with that. Me, if I was 6'9", oh, I'd be out there dunking on everybody. But that's his talent. I can't do anything with that, right? So ultimately, when you're talking about in yourself as well, you're an asset. And what happens is that when we enter the economic system, there's different ways of thinking. There are some people who are there to acquire an asset. The Barron Trumps are trained to acquire assets. Many of us are trained to sell an asset. We're looking to sell ourselves. Like a slave auction. Like, hey, I'm a big, strong negress, who can work hard all day, and it's still I'm good. I'm good with people, and I can, in my resume, I have these credentials and these skills, and I would love to come work for you. That's what we're doing. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm not making fun of us. I was raised the same way. But I think that that's fine. And then when they offer us the job and they're like, "Hey, you're a good, smart, young black man, young black woman. I'd love for you to come and work for our firm." We're so excited, like, "Oh my God, I got the job!" Right? And that is fine, but it's a problem for me because that excitement you have should be tempered in the sense that you sold yourself without having a full awareness of just how valuable you actually could have been to yourself. And I did this even as a PhD. I was like, yeah, I got this PhD now. I was the only black African American man on the earth to get a PhD in finance that particular year. There was no other black person on the planet. So in the world of DEI, I was kind of like the prize. And I was very excited when I was offered six figures for my first job. But I think what I did not understand was how much more valuable I could have been for myself. Like if I said, okay, instead of me putting 50 hours a week into serving the people who have bought me, purchased me, I wonder what happens if I put 60 hours a week into serving me and developing something that relates to me and my family, that's going to be something that we own. And it doesn't mean that you're a sellout for working for other people. I've done it. A lot of us have done it. But I think if you just take a step back and kind of understand that, like if you just kind of know how valuable you are and you kind of know that you are the prize, like acknowledge that you are the SHIT, then at the very least it will put you in a position where you are negotiating from a position of power and not a position of desperation. Like it's one thing if I come work for you because I need to versus me working for you because I want to. If I'm working for you because I want to, then I'm going to have expectations of you. I might negotiate a higher salary. If you mistreat me, I might walk away because I know my worth. I know that even without your validation, even without you accepting me, oh, I'm still somebody. But you don't really see that. Look at how many black folks will lose their job and literally lose their self-esteem because don't nobody want you. Or a young black man who plays in the NFL and he's been trained and bred to be an NFL athlete, almost like that lady in Coming to America. And the prince is like, "So what do you like?" She's like, "Whatever you like." Hey, so what do you? So tell me about yourself. Like tell me about your life. And she's like, "I've been trained to serve you," and that's what happens. Get a lot of young black athletes. They're trained to serve the NFL. So when the coaches are like, "What do you like to do, boy?" Um, whatever y'all want me to like. Like, well, so what kind of man are you? Well, I'm a team player and I'm committed. I can make tackles and I'm determined. And I get all that, but then what happens when they run into somebody like Dr. Myron Roll? Dr. Roll was like, Yeah, I could be a great defensive back for you because I was an All-American and I'd run the 40-yard dash in 4.3 seconds. But I also think I might want to be a medical doctor because I'm very, very smart. I'm as smart as I am athletic. And in fact, actually, I appreciate your offer, but I'm going to go become a Rhodes Scholar because even though I still want to do the football thing, like I really like it, I got other stuff. I got other plans for me because I'm a hell of an asset. I'm kind of the prize, and I want to make sure I get max value from this thing as opposed to me selling to the highest bidder or just jumping up and down just because you let me know you want me. Join the club. Everybody wants me. Like, I really think that that kind of self-esteem really goes a long way because if you know your worth and you know your value, you will never let anybody intimidate you into feeling bad about yourself just because they don't want you no more. Just like in dating, if you know you got options, if you know that you are a good person, if you know what you got going on, if you know that you've been taking care of yourself, if you know how much other women or other men would be interested in you, you're not going to be begging an abusive person to keep you on board. You're not going to stay in an abusive relationship. You're going to walk away and explore other options. You're not even going to be mad. You're not going to even be upset that it's like, okay, it's over. All right, no problem. I wish you the best. And then you go live your life because you know your worth. But when we get sad, like we lose the job or whatever, and we sit around waiting by the phone, waiting for somebody to call us, that's a tremendous waste of value. One of the rules of capitalism actually is that an asset should be put to its best available use. That's what you call an efficient capital market. So efficiency means that if you are an asset, you should be put to your best available use. And I believe that trillions of dollars in black wealth never comes into existence largely because our capital's not put to its best available use. Because there's no way on this earth you can convince me that there's any community on the planet where 98% of their kids are supposed to be going out working for white people. You're not maxing your value. You're not getting your money's worth. You got little black boys and little black girls that are every bit as smart as those oligarchs that Trump had on that stage, and they're all a bunch of damn employees. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being an employee. If that's all you're able to do, then that's okay. I'm not mad at you for that. But you got some of your children that are damn geniuses. Give that kid a chance to truly explore how great he can be. Position him so that he can be great. You position him by, first of all, taking off the shackles of economic desperation that are going to cause him to put himself in places he should not be. That's where your job as a parent, grandparent, or whatever, niece, uncle, aunt, whatever you are, to is that's when your job to invest for that child, it really comes into play. Because a 24-year-old who's financially secure navigates the job market very differently than a 24-year-old who has no options. My brother went to Cornell University, and my brother, man, I'm gonna tell you, my brother, Lawrence, I'm proud of that guy. I'm so proud of him because I've been mentoring the boy since he was 2. And imagine getting an earful of Boyce Watkins every single day for like 20 something years. My brother's a bad boy. He impresses the hell out of me. He went to Cornell University at about 26 years old, 27 years old. My mother, before she passed, her big one of her big beliefs was everybody should get a master's degree. She wanted all her kids to get a master's. So my brother started his first business, and he was doing okay. He was making enough money. He's making, over 6 figures or so. Um, and he liked it, but because mama wanted everybody to get a master's, he decided to go to Cornell and get a master's. So he went to Cornell and he did what he does. He did what he does. He went there, he kicked it, but he rocked it out. He made a lot of friends. In fact, to this day, my brother has friends who are billionaires. I don't have any billionaire friends, but he's more social. He's better at that than I am. Well, anyway, when it got time to graduate, when he was done with school, all the other students, everybody went on the job market. At that time, Cornell MBAs were in big demand. They were making somewhere around 200,000, 150 to 200,000 on their first job. And I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" And he didn't go to a single job interview. He didn't go to any job interviews. And I said, "Well, why not?" He said, "Man, when I learned how great it was to have my own business and to be free," he said, "I don't think I can work for anybody ever again." And that was interesting to me because what you saw was a black man who was able to navigate and make his next move without the massive pressure of economic desperation and financial anxiety. because he had something else going on, because he knew that his talents would not be wasted whether he was employed or not. That really allowed him to make the decision from a different perspective than he would have had to make it if he felt like the only area where he could have any value on the earth is if somebody gave him a job to work or an opportunity to work in their company. And that was where I was very proud because I felt like I did that. I did my job for him. He was 12 years younger than me, so I felt almost like a father figure to him, kind of. And I wanted to clear a path for him. I don't want my kids to be desperate. I want them to choose and not be forced into a choice. I want them to have options. That's it. So this is what I would recommend for anybody, all y'all who love your kids. If you don't love your kids, then this is not for you. But if you love your kids, love your grandkids, the best thing you can do for them is position them to where they have options. Options start in the mind. Very beginning. There's 1,000 ways to make money. Giving 100,000 hours of your life to the corporate plantation is not the only way that you can make money. There's a million ways you can make money. Let's go through at least 12 of them or something. That's the first thing. So it starts in the mind, but then it starts with giving them something real. You got a newborn baby, you got 20 years, 25 years really to get them ready. 25 damn years. Do you know how much money a person can have in 25? Do you know if you went back in time 25 years and just bought like a couple $1,000s worth of Apple stock, you would have over $1 million right now? You know what 25 years, and if you bought shares in Amazon 25 years ago, it would be worth $2 or $3 million right now. Like, do you understand that? 25 years is a remarkable amount of time. And time, you should think about building wealth through time, almost like traveling. Like if somebody tells me I gotta get from New York to LA in 30 seconds, that's really hard to do. There's not a vehicle on the earth that can do that. If you tell me I've got 3 days, or not 3 days, let's say you tell me I got 6 hours, that's really hard to do because I gotta rush and get a plane ticket. It's kind of stressful. But what if you told me I got 6 months to get from New York to LA? I could probably walk. I don't have to fly. Yeah, I could ride my bike. I could get in a car. I could definitely drive. Give yourself some time. Battles are won with time. Time should be invested in preparation. The moment is a culmination of what you've done over time. So if you're broke in the moment, that means that a lot of time got wasted that could have been spent building some wealth so that you could have some money right now. Time. And your kids have lots of time. They're babies now. They're not even gonna think about money until about the year 2046. I guarantee you, based on the history of the stock market, you invest consistently small amounts right now, even tiny amounts of money on a regular basis until 2046, you will have a substantial amount of money. Enough money where you ain't got to go sell yourself to nobody. The kids will be fine. So all I'm begging you to do, all I'm saying to you is please don't waste time. That's what I hope that point got across. And I know, I don't want to, I hope I don't sound redundant. This is on my mind. This came to, I think I'm gonna tell you when I watch stuff like I watched that inauguration and I have mixed feelings about Trump. I've been following him for a long time, so I don't hate him as much as some people do. I don't love him like some people. I just see him. I just observe. I just analyze. And when you just see what America looks like, I think that a lot of our people just live in kind of this delusion. I think that we feel that if we just, I think my wife, God bless her, she's a social worker and she has an opinion that's very different from mine and, on a lot of things. But, she says, we got to speak truth to power. And I'm sorry, I'm a little more practical in the sense that I'm like, I could speak about it all day, and I do. I speak truth to power. I believe I do. What do y'all think? Do y'all think I speak truth to power? Give me a yes if you agree that I speak truth to power. Do you think that I do that? I do that. I've been talking a lot. I have almost 1 billion views on YouTube now. Did y'all know that? Like I've been doing this for a long time. So I do. I speak truth to power a lot. But there's also a part of me that knows that talking only does so much. I mean, after when you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. So what are you going to do that's going to allow you to shape the world into what you need it to be. Not change the whole world. I'm not talking about changing the whole world. The oligarchs are going to change the world for sure. I just want you to change your world, right? And this comes down to things like economic self-defense. And all economic self-defense basically means is that you have enough economic security that somebody off the street can't come in and buy you, buy your wife, buy your kids like y'all some damn slaves in 1805. because I guarantee you right now, millions of people are in that spot. Somebody comes along and they can write a big enough check, and they're like, okay, I need you to jump, and here's how high. And you say, I ain't jumping for nobody. Okay, I'll write you a $20,000 check if you jump for me. And then I need you to jump in that direction. Then I need you to do this. And then I'm gonna meet you at the Diddy party. That's how this economic exploitation occurs. So if you are a person that's financially secure and you've got the freedom that starts in the mind, that's self-esteem and stuff like that, and then you got some freedom in your bank account, so you're not stuck in financial desperation that will keep you on a low vibrational frequency, then you can kind of elevate. And that's why in the beginning of 2024, I figured out, I said, I know what we need. We need a daily class called financial consciousness. I want people to understand what that means. Financial consciousness means leveling up your thinking, looking at the whole chessboard, not trying to just win the game, but asking whose game is it? Who designed the game? Why am I in this game in the first place? Because sometimes if you realize that you shouldn't even be in the game, then you ain't got to stress yourself out trying to win. You just you grab your basketball and go home. I'm not playing this game. This is rigged. I had that happen with Damon Dash. I love Damon Dash. He was one of my buddies for a while. We don't hang out as much, but we hung out a lot at one point. And there was one point where Dame was trying to corner me. He got mad at I think one of his baby's mamas or something. And he was complaining about something she did. And I know that in most situations like that, there's like his story, her story, and the truth. And so he's trying to get me to agree with him, and I just wouldn't do it. And he asked me a question where either answer that I gave was going to agree with him. And he said, so what do you think? Which one is it? Which one he said it? I said, I don't have an answer. I'm not answering that question because you've cornered me into a spot where whichever answer I answer is going to be the answer that you want. So I'm refusing to even engage in this conversation. I'm just not going to give you an answer at all. And that's kind of just like with politics, right? It's like, well, which one do you want? The Democrat or the Republican, right? And a smart person is like, they both suck. Like, I don't want either one of them. And I think it's okay to say I do have a choice outside of that. I don't have to play your game. I don't have to submit to whatever rules and parameters you put on the process. And I think that's a really important part of being free. Like being free means having the courage to explore and go outside of boundaries, but it's hard for a lot of people to do that because most people don't feel comfortable doing things that are outside the norm. Most people don't feel comfortable publicly verbalizing a desire to try something different, to go in a different direction, because there's a lot of fear, and fear leads to people sort of following the crowd because they're like, "Oh, I don't want anybody to talk bad about me and stuff like that." And I get talked bad about a lot. I mean, all the time. It almost even sounds like even my own wife was talking bad about me. Like, she's like, "Boyce, yeah, I think that you're," and it's like, no, like I'm just telling you what my opinion is, and you're just not gonna I don't I that's my rule. I'm not letting you bully me, anybody, right? So I would almost say to you guys in general, pick your own path. I think when you do that and you give yourself those degrees of freedom, that's a mathematical term, degrees of freedom. The more degrees of freedom you have when you're solving a problem in mathematics, the more optimal of a solution you're going to find. That's a mathematical fact. That when the more you put more constraints you put on a problem, the more rules and the more you control the solution, the worse the solution is going to be. So if you really want to succeed and you really want to win and you really want to elevate, I encourage you to find that pathway to freedom, whatever that looks like for you. It might be freedom from your friends and family. It might be psychological freedom. It might be breaking away from whatever you believe, whatever you were raised with, breaking away from what your parents taught you. And I guarantee you that that will just put you in places that allow you greater access to this thing that we talk a lot about, but I don't know if we understand it enough. I think a lot of people don't even understand that freedom requires sacrifice, freedom requires discipline, freedom requires accountability, and freedom it typically has a cost attached to it. Anybody who thinks they can get freedom and it's going to be easy and fun and someone's just going to hand it to you doesn't understand what freedom is. Freedom can never be something someone really just hands to you most of the time. Sometimes they can be. It can be if someone really is, crazy enough to just give it to you. But in capitalism, no one gives freedom away. They're not going to give you freedom. Why would they give you freedom when it's going to cost them money? So freedom is something you're going to have to fight for. And some of you are strong enough to fight for it. And I applaud you. I commend you. I encourage you. And I want you to keep fighting because I guarantee you that if you keep fighting, you'll obtain it. You will obtain it. So anyway, I'm done talking. All right. Okay. I'm gonna read a little bit from Dr. Anderson's book. I kind of feel bad that I went into the election stuff, and if that bothered you, then I'm so sorry. I promise you next week I'll start reading from where we are. But let me go to page 253 of the Black History Reader, and I'm going to read. this one section that I saw. It's question 90, and he says he talks about black humor. He says, "Does black humor provide psychological release from the stress of being black? Why do we like comedians so much?" I think this is interesting. So the book is called The Black History Reader. The website is powernomics.com, and he says this. He says, "Humor flows from the life experiences of an individual or a group. Black humor is a distinctive part of black culture that tracks back to slavery. It is a distinctive expression of black cultural heritage that expresses joy in the harsh realities of life as a black person in a society in which blacks will always be on the bottom. So you laugh a lot because laughing releases dopamine. Dopamine numbs you from the pain that you're experiencing. That's one of the reasons why black people love comedians so much. During slavery and Jim Crow segregation, black humor was a way to safely denounce and jab white society and to vent frustration and rage. White entertainers have always mimicked black mannerisms and expressions, but without understanding the rebelliousness expressed in black humor. A white lifestyle cannot possibly provide even a glimpse of what daily life is like to be black. What is funny to blacks is not necessarily funny to whites, and the reverse is equally true. Has anybody ever tried to watch Seinfeld? I've tried to watch Seinfeld and laugh. I didn't laugh once. Like nothing on Seinfeld ever made me laugh. It was really crazy that people just talked about this show like it's the greatest thing ever. I could not laugh. I was like, this is not funny. This is terrible. But maybe y'all liked it, so maybe it's just me. All right, so let me keep going. Below are three examples of black humor during different time periods. Here's one: black outwitting a white person. Pompey, how do I look? The master asked. Oh, massa, mighty, you look mighty. What do you mean, mighty, Pompey? Why, master, you look noble. What do you mean by noble? Why, sir, you looks just like a lion. Why, Pompey, have you ever seen a lion? I saw one down in yonder in the field the other day, massa. Pompey, you foolish fellow, that was a jackass. Was it, massa? Well, you, sir, you look just like him. You get that? You see, that's funny, right? So here's another example of black humor from I don't know if it's a different era, but here's what he's this is called a satisfying prayer. Back in the days of steamship liners like the Titanic, only rich white folks could enjoy sailing oceans and seas from one country to another. The Titanic was supposed to be an unsinkable vessel, but on its maiden voyage, it struck an iceberg and started to sink. Knowing there would not be enough lifeboats, terrified Titanic passengers did not know what to do. Then someone suggested that they do what Negroes always do: pray and call on the Lord. Unfortunately, no one knew exactly what to say in the prayer, so they called Sam, the ship's black cook, and asked him to come up on deck and lead the group in a prayer. Sam agreed to go topside. When he arrived on the deck, he removed his cook's hat and began to pray like this: Lord, one day I was hungry. I went to a restaurant to get something to eat, and the sign said for white folks only. Then I went to the water fountain to get some water, and the sign said for white folks only. Then I went to the toilet room, and the sign said for white folks only. So, Lord Almighty, when you decide to let this big old boat sink, let it say for white folks only. In your name I pray, amen. That's funny. That's really funny, right? I like that. That's good. I like that. Okay. This made me laugh. All right. Oh, by the way, I want to mention everybody, if you want to get an invitation to our morning financial consciousness classes, we call it the Millionaire Training Camp. You can go to drboyceelevate.com. That's drboyceelevate.com. And you can also text the word morning, morning, to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. And also, we're going to be doing stock options tomorrow night. I think, yeah, tomorrow night's Thursday night. We're going to bring in the tax specialist to talk about what to do. I know a lot of you have been making money selling your stock options. So you got to know about taxes. So we're bringing in a tax specialist, Larissa. I can't remember her last name. She's out of Atlanta. And so she's going to do a presentation on tax strategies to minimize your tax bill. And so if you want to join us in the Prime or learn about options, you can text the word options to the phone number 87948. So text options to 87948. Also, I want to say thank you to Amani. Amani's in here. She's on our support team, and she helps us to make the engine move. All right, so here's another one. Here's another joke. Telling it like it is. When you're black, you're black. When I was born, I was black. When I grew up, I was black. When I went in the sun, I stayed black. When it got cold, I was black. When I was scared, I was black. When I was sick, I was black. And when I die, I'll still be black. Now, you white folks, when you're born, you're pink. When you grow up, you're white. When you go in the sun, you get red. When you're cold, you turn blue. When you're scared, you're yellow. When you get sick, you're green. When you bruise, you turn purple. And when you die, you look gray. So why are you calling us colored folks? Isn't that's funny? Oh my God, that's hilarious. That is true. That's y'all be changing colors, man. Okay. So he says here that whites have always been attracted to and mimic black humor. Blacks have always used humor as an acceptable vehicle to criticize and make fun of whites. It allows blacks to vent their anxieties, fears, and frustration and to build self-esteem. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to bounce out for tonight. It was fun talking to you. And next week we'll jump back to more of our regularly scheduled stuff. I figured that this week it was kind of a great opportunity to really talk about what's happening in the country. And I know you may not agree with everything, but let me know. Give me a yes if it's okay for us to disagree, and still love each other. I hope that that's okay. Sometimes I know I'm gonna say stuff you may not agree with, and you may not agree with me, and that's okay. I think we can just talk, and you can say, "Boys, that was stupid. That was crazy. I don't agree with you," and that's all right. And maybe I think you a little crazy, and we just be crazy together. So, I like diversity of perspective. I don't think every black person has to have the same opinion, and just reiterate that I don't care who you voted for in the election. I love you. If you are black first, then you are my brother. You are my sister. I will not, 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 will not fight with another black person over politicians. I just cannot do it. I'm not interested. I don't think it's beneficial, and I think it's a waste of energy. I think it's a waste of energy. If you don't believe me, I want you to look at scenarios where people sit around and talk about the politics all day, whether it's Democrat or Republican. I want you to go look and see what differences they're making in the black community. They're not making any difference at all. They're not making any difference. Nothing, wealth isn't going up. Opportunities aren't growing. Our children are not better off. Our communities aren't safer. But if you go into spaces like this, I can tell y'all, I know a bunch of black folks right here in this room right now. Give me a yes in the chat if your wealth is going up as a result of all these economic conversations we're having every day. Give me a yes if you have a better vision for your family. Give me a yes if you if you can see things better, if you're making different moves, right? A lot of you, seriously, I meet a lot of you, and I've been collecting data from you for since I started doing this in 2006. When I meet you in the airport and you talk to me, I met a young brother that was 31 years old, and he was in the airport on my way to Amsterdam, or not Amsterdam, I'm sorry, Copenhagen, Denmark. And I listen. I don't listen to see if you recognize me. I appreciate that. I don't care if you recognize me. I'm not trying to be a celebrity. I want to know, did anything I say get you to shift your behavior on some level? If it got you to change even something small, like you say, oh, I bought my first share of stock, or oh, I talked to my kids about money, and all this other, that is where I'm in my mind. I'm like, ding, 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 touchdown. We did it. We did it. We did it. Because I'm gonna tell you that this is not just for you. I'm selfish in this to some extent. I told you all my biggest regret that I admitted to was that I didn't have more kids. I was so busy working. I didn't think I had time to have a family and try to build what I was building at the same time. Luckily, I married a woman that had 3 kids, so I've got the whole experience of being a father, but it's not the same as having kids of my own. So I was like, damn, I wish I could go back and fix that one thing, right? So when you tell me that you're influencing your kids with things that I say, or that somehow what you've learned here is impacting your family in a significant way, that allows me to kind of just have a little piece of legacy, just to kind of know I put some energy out there that's gonna live after I'm gone, because I might be dead tomorrow. Nobody knows. My mother just died. I could die tomorrow. Nobody knows. You never know when your last day is, but I'm not scared to die. But what I am scared of is to die for nothing, and I don't want that to happen. So at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for. Like I really believe. I know. I don't just believe. I know. I know. I know that if you take just 3% of what we've talked about and you apply 3% of this to your family, you will be so much further ahead than everybody else. You would not believe it. Compound interest is powerful. That little pivot is crazy. I have seen that happen. I knew this kid who went to my alma mater, the Ohio State University, national champions, by the way, hell of a football team. And I met this guy, and he was a 30-year-old millionaire, and he ran this business with his girlfriend, and they were making all this money. And I said, well, how did you end up doing so well at such a young age? And he said, well, when I was a little kid, my daddy used to say, any black man who wants to be free should have his own business. And I said, well, did your father have his own business? He said, no, he didn't. He was a truck driver. He worked for somebody, but he used to say that. And just because his daddy said that one thing, that stuck with him. So when he got to college, he was like, well, what do I want to major in? What do I want to do? And he said, well, my daddy used to say that if a black man wants to be free, he should have his own business. So that's what he did. So he lit the match, like he started the spark, and his son became the forest fire, so to speak. Not to use a terrible pun right now, but you get the point. Like his son took it all the way down the road. So a lot of times with the kids, all you got to do is kind of be that spark. And if you're the spark, they'll do all the work. They'll do all the work, but you just got to kind of help them pivot a little bit, help them point in the right direction. And then when they start running, they're going to be running towards something good and not running towards something bad. So long story short, this is the vision. This is the dream. I know it's going to happen. It's already underway. It's already happening. I went to that great event in InvestFest. I'm gonna go again next year because I had so much fun and so many people. I couldn't go 2 inches and I kept getting stopped by people and I was so happy to see this because I believe one of my dreams, one of my visions is that I believe that Black people will be and can be the most economically intelligent group of people on the planet. I believe that there will be a time in 30 years or so, maybe 40 years. I was thinking 2070, it might happen before this, where Black people, when they think about Black people, Black men and Black women, they're going to think about business ownership. They're going to think about stock market investing. They're going to think about real estate. And they're going to say, oh my God, these people are obsessed with their economic power as a pathway to freedom. And this has been done before. This is how the Jewish community built Hollywood. They built Hollywood because they got tired of getting beat up on. They got tired of being discriminated against. They got tired of being blocked out of situations. They got tired of not being invited to sit at the table. So they said, we're going to go build a table out in California, and it's going to be our table. And it became one of the most powerful tables in the world. So this is the future for us. This is what I see when I look 50, 60 years ahead. So the future is very bright for the Black community. So just keep on moving, keep on trucking. Don't get distracted by the nonsense. You do you, make it happen. You got this. All right. So I'm out of here, guys. Have a good night. And don't forget, if you want to join us for class tomorrow, you can go to drboyceelevate.com or you can also just text the word morning, MORNING, to 87948. And I do have a training called How to Make Money Without Working. It's totally free. If you want to learn about stock options and all that, you can do that if you text the word money to 87948, you can grab that. So we got a lot of stuff for you in the Black Business School. Thank you, Amani. Thank you.